basically, Mounjaro right now here in the U.S. is marketed as a diabetes drug, but you have already asked for regulatory approval for the treatment of diabetes or obesity, that is.
Yes, that's correct, Shery. So first of all, we have launched already Mounjaro here in Japan for the treatment of type 2 diabetes. And we also have announced that we have submitted and filed for regulatory approval for obesity disease here in Japan.
Do you have any updates for us, and what are the expectations of demand here?
Yes. Well, first of all, let me say that for type 2 diabetes patients, we see around about 10 million patients here in Japan, and half of them are actually still not achieving the HbA1c levels, which should be below 7%, to make sure that they really don't have any diabetes complication. And that's where currently Mounjaro is helping existing type 2 diabetes patients here in Japan. And that's very exciting. We have seen a very strong uptake. Second, for the obesity side, this is a very complex disease, right? You have excessive fat accumulations in your tissues, and it's really, impairing your health. And this is where actually tirzepatide could be a really good treatment option. And we have seen here in Japan that probably around 30% of men, a little more than 20% of women are actually can be diagnosed as obesity disease because they have a BMI of 25 and higher. So therefore, the prospects are very strong. There's a high unmet need. Unfortunately, there's little treatment. So we're looking forward to providing tirzepatide soon.
Is there that sort of awareness here in Japan, as there is in the West, that obesity is actually a disease? And are you a bit concerned about the government perhaps not being as open to such drugs, given also the very strong diet culture in Asian countries?
Yes, great question, because you are absolutely right. Currently, we still feel like there's a lot of social stigma around that. It's not really recognized from a society standpoint as a disease, but it is. It's a very complex disease, right? Because when you have risk factors, you're at risk of stroke, of cardiovascular disease, of death. So it's very serious, but still I think society believes that obesity is something you can self-manage, right? You can just control yourself. Even we know it has to do with lifestyle, it has to do with genetics, with the environment you're actually living on. So therefore, treatments are very rare currently, so we think, tirzepatide is an important treatment option, but we also, of course, would like to work with the government, with the medical association, to raise public awareness and address this social stigma, which is really debilitating for patients.
With the rising popularity of this drug category to treat obesity and to promote weight loss, there's also concerns about, what happens when you come off it and what are the long-term implications of staying on it, indefinitely, right? Is that something that we're getting more data on?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, as you know, the regulatory submission always requires to have a very compact clinical data package on efficacy and safety. So when we launch these products, receive regulatory approval, Haidi, we have already very, robust safety data. And then, of course, as the product will be used in future, we're generating, of course, more of these data. So far, we have seen a very robust safety profile. We have a very strong efficacy profile for tirzepatide in obesity disease, where we have seen quite significant weight loss, which medically is relevant for these patients to come off this risk implications.
And there's been huge, supply concerns over these drugs as well. In Japan, are you looking to partner with manufacturers at all in terms of having local production?
Yeah, so first of all, you're right. We have seen an unprecedented demand of incretin globally, not just here in Japan. So we're really working hard to address and produce more. We have announced over the last 4 years $18 billion of manufacturing investment. That is the most ambitious manufacturing investment we have done in our 148 years of company history. And so every day we're continue to support and supply more. Here in Japan, when we started last year, we had to control some of the shipments, but we have worked really hard with our partner here also on the ground, Mitsubishi Tanabe, and our manufacturing colleagues, and happy to share that the supply here in Japan is stable and we have lifted these controls.
Biotech and pharmaceutical innovation is huge in Japan, obviously. What are you on the lookout for in terms of identifying, the next most, I guess, hopeful medicine for the company?
Yeah, so look, our scientists are really looking into advancing science and therapies. We're operating in a couple of core focus areas, namely oncology, diabetes, obesity, which I spoke about, but also immunology, neurodegeneration, including Alzheimer, dementia, and pain. So these key focus areas, we're partnering with our scientists. We're, of course, also screening the landscape internationally to see which, new modalities we can actually take on. And as you probably have seen, our pipeline is being regarded as one of the best in the industry. And I think it has to do because we continue to invest into complex diseases like Alzheimer, dementia, because we have invested $8 billion the last 35 years. We have had multiple clinical trials, a lot of clinical molecules we have tested. Now we have donanemab, which we have submitted for early Alzheimer disease. And I think that's the path over the last decades which have made us successful, and we will continue on this path.
Donanemab, with the approval, what is the update on that front, and how big of an opportunity is Japan, where, of course, we deal with an aging society?
Yes, so we have announced last year that we have submitted donanemab here also for regulatory approval. So we're working with the regulators as we speak. The market here, of course, there's a huge unmet need, Shery, because currently next year the MHLW estimates that we will have 6.5 to 7 million patients here in Japan with Alzheimer dementia. So there's a huge unmet need. And of course, we hope that with donanemab, we can help many of these patients to, show decline of their progression of their disease.